Housing is a fraught topic of late, many years of late. I feel like this has been an ongoing crisis for many, many years. And look, I'm not sure that I'm feeling all that optimistic, my young millennial, but in being able to afford a home of my own. Affordability and supply have evaded many of us around the country. So what would you like to see changed to fix housing? Send me a text to 0487 99 1057, or better yet, tell the government. The NT government wants you to have your say about housing in the Territory and contribute to building the new housing strategy. And one group that will definitely have some words to say on this is NT Shelter, the Territory's peak body for affordable housing and homelessness. Annie Taylor is the CEO of NT Shelter, and she joins me now. Annie, good afternoon.
Thanks so much for having me.
So, Annie, housing has been challenging nationally for a number of years. What are some of the key issues here in the NT that you would like to see addressed in this strategy?
Yeah, look, there are quite a lot of issues here in the Northern Territory. We have the highest rates of homelessness in the country at 12 times the national average, and at the same time, we're dealing with some of the least affordable housing in Australia. So, to give you an idea, in Darwin, you need to be earning roughly 120k a year now before rent is even considered affordable for you. In Alice Springs, it's also really tough for people to find affordable rentals. So there's a lot of people who are locked out of the housing market in the Northern Territory. It's a crisis that's no longer just affecting people on the lowest incomes. It's impacting our tradies, our teachers, nurses, and other essential workers that we really rely on to keep the Northern Territory running. So housing's not just a social issue, it's a workforce issue, it's a livability issue, it's an economic issue, and it's social infrastructure as well.
It's connected to absolutely everything. And when you talk about those issues being so much more pronounced in the NT, higher rates of homelessness, higher cost or proportional cost to income of house prices, what are the root causes of these issues and disparities here in the NT specifically? Is it, a lack of demand or too much demand, a lack of development and investment? Like, what do you see as being the issues that the strategy should hopefully address?
Well, look, it's a lack of supply. We just do not have enough supply of housing in the Northern Territory, and specifically for us and our members, we want to see social and affordable housing supply as a core part of the new strategy, and that's the part that the Northern Territory really can't afford to ignore, because when housing supply is too tight, that's when you see rents rise and you see wait lists for social and affordable housing grow, and homelessness increases as well. And overcrowding in the houses that we do have becomes more common, and that creates the stress that you see within the households and in communities. And those pressures do not stay contained within housing. It flows through to other systems like the health system, the policing system, the justice system. So it's this vicious loop, and the only way we're going to really address that is to increase social and affordable housing supply, and it needs to be done well. So it's not just about increasing the supply and not thinking strategically about it. We want to see good design, good management, and enough support to keep social housing tenancies in particular stable, because we recognise that everyone out there, everyone who's listening, we all want to live happily in our suburbs, but sometimes we do see that antisocial behaviour, and that's a symptom of a system that's under stress, and the housing system is under stress. So that's the dilemma. The antisocial behaviour might make you want to oppose social housing, but opposing it doesn't fix the problem. It just makes it worse. If anything, it's an argument for doing housing the right way.
You are, exactly, you're in Alice Springs at the moment meeting with people and stakeholders. What are people saying to you about how their housing needs are being met or not being met specifically here in the centre?
Yeah, look, I'm down here in Alice, and I've got a lot of friends who live here, and a lot of them are renters, and you chat to people and they're renting for pretty exorbitant prices down here. So that goes back to that earlier point that we're not just talking about people on low to moderate incomes anymore who are locked out of a rental system. We do need greater protections for renters. We do need more supply of rental properties so that people can enter into rental properties and feel like they can live there with some kind of semblance of stability, because we've got 50% of the Northern Territory renting. That's a greater proportion than anywhere else in the country, because it's a hugely transient population down here in Alice Springs, but also in all of our urban centres. So we need those protections for that portion of the population. But again, it's about increasing the right kind of supply, because something that is really important to note is that historically in Australia, we are building more houses than what we have before, but we're just not building the right kind of houses because we still have an affordability crisis. So we need to focus on that affordable and social end of the spectrum so that it kind of flows up and everyone's happy.
It's so tricky though, because there are so many, private and commercial factors that come into supplying housing, which I guess is part of the problem. We were just talking about renting in Alice Springs, and I'm renting here. I've been living here for 2 months, and I moved from Melbourne, and I've had people back in Melbourne ask me, they say to me, well, the rent must be cheaper. Like, at least you're going somewhere where the rent's cheaper. And I'm like, it's not actually. Yeah. I'm actually paying more, which is kind of wild. But, when you talk about increasing supply and density, we only recently at the start of the month saw the scrapping of the Malenka apartments site that was supposed to add 144 new apartments, which was scrapped because it lacked financial feasibility. So, I mean, how in this strategy would you and NT Shelter be proposing that these sorts of, density positive developments don't just fall through?
Well, that's the tricky thing, isn't it? And we do need to look at what is out there in terms of financial products and also what's being offered currently by the Commonwealth. We're at a really unprecedented time in Australia because there has been some investment after a long time of fairly limited investment from the Commonwealth government with a focus on social and affordable housing under the Housing Accord, the National Housing Accord, and specifically the Housing Australia Future Fund. And the Northern Territory has capitalised on some of that, but not enough. We do need to be attracting more of that Commonwealth investment to the NT so that community housing providers in particular can leverage that investment to build housing here in the Northern Territory, and that will alleviate some of that pressure that we are seeing on the ground. Because again, when you focus on that end of the housing spectrum, the social and affordable end, it does help to flow up the housing continuum and alleviate some of the pressure on renters, etc. So there is some investment out there and some opportunities out there federally, and we really need to make sure we're leveraging that. Otherwise, we will continue to be left behind the rest of the country.
You're hearing from Annie Taylor, CEO of Affordable and Social Housing Peak Body NT Shelter. So given that the government is open to ideas, they're asking everyone to have their say on the future of NT housing, what will NT Shelter be submitting to this consultation period?
As much as we can. Look, we're very much at the table. So we've been participating in a number of workshops with the government. So we're really pleased that the government are going out to consultation, which will be open for a number of weeks, and we are making sure that the government really understands that. They do have their priorities, which are around reducing crime, rebuilding the economy, and restoring the Territory lifestyle. And housing is one of the levers that there is to pull that genuinely moves all three at once of these priorities. So we'll be putting in a submission. We'll be talking about the supply of social and affordable housing as the non-negotiable foundation. We'll be talking about density and how important it is to get density right so that everyone's happy in those neighbourhoods around Alice Springs, Darwin and our other urban centres. We'll be talking about key cohorts as well, so young people, older Territorians, and how we need to think about what sort of housing those key cohorts need. So there are a few things that we'll be really focusing on, but I'd encourage everyone out there. Housing affects every Territorian. It's the foundation for so many things. So everyone can jump onto the Have Your Say. There's a survey that people can do, and that'll be open for a number of weeks.
Yep, consultation is open until Friday. Friday the 17th of April, and you can go to haveyoursay.nt.gov.au to have your say on the future of housing in the Territory. Annie, thanks so much for being here this afternoon.
Thanks for having me.
Annie Taylor.